another Walking Through the Word Bible class. I'm grateful that you have joined us for these next 25 to 30 minutes. Thank you to our intercessors for your support and work and the things you continue to do to make ministry go as it relates to our prayer time. I want to get back to the foundation of creation and look at the book of Genesis with you tonight. Chapter 3 is where I want to study from. Genesis chapter 3. Those of you who are getting logged in and reach out to somebody and share with them to come and be a part of this experience with us. Genesis chapter 3 is where I want to get started with work tonight with just some time in sharing with you. Genesis chapter 3, I want verse number 4 is where I want to start this particular lesson tonight. Have you ever thought about, for the purpose of backdrop and the purpose of kind of building this particular lesson, have you ever asked this question? And perhaps you have, I know I have, why do I listen to certain things or to certain people? Have you ever asked that? On the backdrop of what I want to build with Genesis chapter 3, verse number 4, why do I entertain certain people, or why do I listen to certain things, right? And I'm not saying that don't make that a negative narrative, because I think that our ears should be open to listen and to hear from people, because number one, we learn. Number two, we're able to decide based upon the information that's given, right? And so even as we are listening, we have to still do our due diligence to verify that which we hear, right? We have to do our due diligence to verify that which we hear. And so I think it's important to ask ourselves that question periodically is, and right as my iPad dies on me, thank God for another piece of technology here in this phone, but as my iPad dies, why do we listen to certain people, certain individuals, and what do we hope to gain or to glean from as it relates to that? And I think we can find perhaps the danger into being open and receptive to any and everything. There is danger. I want you to note that this evening, that there's a danger to being open and receptive to any and everything. And part of that, I believe, comes with understanding and having confidence in that which you know, right? I want you to note that. I think part of our ability not to be open and to receptive to any and everything is a result of the confidence and the faith in what we already know, right? And so that kind of is your is a good mechanism or tool that keeps you disciplined, that keeps you at a place where you can decide, well, no, that is in direct conflict or contradiction to what I know and to where I am in my faith. I've always wondered or asked the question as I've looked through Genesis, as I've even taken some time to write about it. I'm always amazed at looking at the serpent and how he was attracted, or what motivated him to interact or to talk with Eve. I'm always wondering what was his motivation. What did he see in Eve that made him feel or gave him a sense that Eve would even listen? Or was it just, I'm gonna give it a shot, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't work. But I wonder what was the drive? What did he see? Or was Eve lacking something, or was just the serpent at a place he was so confident in concrete in what he thought and believed that he thought, I am going to convince somebody with this information, right? And I think that's the drive of people when they talk to certain people, is that I have this information that's going to drive and it's going to influence them or even cause them to alter where they are, to make a decision based upon the information that I'm going to give them. And have you been like me in life? Have you been like me in life? Ponder on this, where you've made a decision based off information that you were given. You didn't do your due diligence to make sure that the information was accurate, or to make sure the information was going to be productive, it was going to work. And before you knew it, you were like, wow, why in the world did I listen to them? I've been there. Why in the world did I listen to them? And so let's look at Genesis chapter 3, verse number 4. Let's look at Genesis chapter 3, verse number 4. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 3, verse number 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, right? Again, this is just the backdrop of, if you were with us Sunday, you understand that we talked about from Genesis chapter 3, verse number 1, and how the serpent comes and was crafty to entertain Eve and say, and Eve had said to him, now God told us that we can't eat of this tree of good, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the serpent says, wait a minute, in verse number 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. In other words, he gives an amendment to the instructions that God has given. I need you to note that he gives an amendment. This is what the serpent does. He amends God's instructions. He gives an amendment to God's instructions. God said, if you eat of this, certainly you shall die. He gives it an amendment and said, no, you won't die. It's an amendment. It's a change. And all of a sudden now Eve is entertaining this, because it's like, wait a minute, I won't die. Well, why can't I partake? Why can't I have some of it? Because God said no. God granted you everything else, but God gave you these limitations. And I think so many times that we can get to the place where we're at a place where we don't like limitations. We don't like the word no. Be honest. We don't like the word no, because it's a sense of rejection. It's a sense of I can't have it. It's a sense of I want it, and how can you tell me no? But not only should we embrace the word no from the standpoint that if God has said it, then no, I'm not going to do opposite of that which God has said. And so we should embrace the word no, but we also should use the word no. Because we should be able to tell people, no, I am not going to do that, because why? It is in direct alignment with the instructions that I've already been given. And so the answer is no. Right? And a lot of times we don't say no because we're enticed, or we are inquisitive, or we want to know so badly, or we want to test the waters. We want to test the waters. Don't make me feel like I'm by myself. There are some things that I should have said no to that I didn't. I was testing the waters, trying to see what will really happen if I kind of went out there, and you find yourself tangled into something that you could have avoided by simply saying no. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. You shall not surely die. And so he gives an amendment. That's our first really talking point on this moment of teaching, is that don't allow people to amend the instructions that God has given you for your life, right? Don't allow, when you are confident and you're courageous and you know the path of your personal journey, don't allow anybody to come in and give you an amendment based upon making something sound better than what it sounded when you got the instructions, right? God gives instructions, don't eat from this tree. Why? Because you shall die. And then somebody else comes and say, wait a minute, dying is not something you really want to do. And so let me give you an amendment to that. You can eat from this tree. You won't die, right? Automatically, right? And it was not the serpent who gave Eve this opportunity to be in the garden, to be fruitful, to multiply. It wasn't the serpent who gave her the instruction. It wasn't the serpent who was responsible for the creation. It was God. But yet the serpent came to rob her or to distract her from the very thing that she already possessed. And that's what amendments will do. Amendments will cause you to lose what you already have because you're making an amendment. You already have what you need, and all of a sudden you make an amendment or an adjustment and you end up losing what you already possessed. Can I suggest to you, what God has given you, embrace it, hold fast to it, and don't allow certain voices or certain things to enter into your ear gates and you lose what you're in possession of. You lose what you're in possession of. God has given it to you. He said, this is yours. And all of a sudden, something comes along with some words that sound fancy, with some words that sound a little bit better, with some words that make you feel like that there's not really any consequences to your actions. And that you can have this freelance or this free way of doing things. And all of a sudden now, the very thing that God has given you, you put in jeopardy because you were willing to open your ears to somebody who simply wanted to distract you from the journey that God had placed you on. Don't get to that place. Which suggests to me, people of God, in order for Eve to say no, note this, she has to have the confidence and the courage that what she already knows is better than what she's heard. I'll say it again. She has to have the confidence and the courage, if she's going to stick to the journey, to know what she's already heard from God. And the instructions that he has given her is way better than what the serpent is now trying to create an amendment for. And that's how you remain on your path. That's how you remain on your journey. Somebody type that on the screen. You remain on your journey through confidence and courage. Because once you waver, once you are willing to open up to alternatives, you'll find yourself putting in jeopardy that which you already have. Chasing after the unknown. Right? Because that is what's getting ready to be true. And so let me chase and try to find out. Note, if you will, in verse number 5. Look what he says. Here, I gotta entice you. If I'm gonna give you an amendment, I've got to make this amendment sound better than what you've heard before. Look at verse number 5. For God doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, plural, knowing good and evil, right? Your eyes shall be open. In other words, God doesn't want you intelligent. That is the convincing of this amendment. Hey, Eve, God doesn't want you intelligent. Interesting. God doesn't want you intelligent. He doesn't want you to know. That's why he's telling you not to eat from the tree of knowledge, because he doesn't want you to know. And so he's creating limitations for you not to be smart. And he also doesn't want you to be powerful and you to be gods. He doesn't want you to do that. And as a result, he's telling you, you have parameters and limitations because God doesn't want you to have this level of knowledge, right? And the problem with that is, and this is why you have to really pause. This is why you have to really dissect it. This is why you really have to engage yourself in it. Because the problem with that is that Eve has already been created with intelligence and wisdom and knowledge. Because God has already given them that authority to be fruitful, to multiply, and check this out, to name everything. So she already possesses this degree or level of intelligence. Here comes the serpent to try to tell her, well, you don't know as much as you're going to know if you partake in this amendment and ignore the parameters that God has put in place. You gotta be at a place, people, God. Again, I go back to this, where you are confident and you have courage in the wisdom and in the intelligence that God has already granted you. So in other words, look at this, because people who want you to make amendments in your life want you to ignore what you know, but carry out what they give you. Ignore what you know, but carry out what they give you. They also want you to listen to them and not listen to anybody else. Right? They want you to listen to them. Because if the amendment takes place, then the serpent wants Eve to listen to whatever it is that the serpent is conveying. But simultaneously, the serpent also wants Eve to ignore and disregard the voice of God, who's responsible for her being in the place that she's in. Just like that. Because every time, listen, not every time, but a lot of times, people of God, when you're getting to the place on your journey of independence, success, authority, and God is catapulting you to higher dimensions, higher levels, you're becoming strong, it is the voice and the responsibility of modern day serpents to get you off of that course. It is the responsibility of modern day serpents to get you off of that course. Because if it contradicts where you're going, then your ears should not be receptive to hearing it if it's not going to take you farther on your journey that God has designed for you. I hope that's making sense. And so, people of God, he says, for God doth know that in the day you eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Here is the interesting piece to this. Here is the piece to this. Knowing good and evil is one thing. Knowing good and evil is one thing. Experiencing good and evil is another. Good is already in the garden. It was good that God created Adam and Eve. As a matter of fact, he declared it himself. She's already experiencing and has the knowledge of good because she's living in good. Be fruitful, multiply, increase, have dominion, power. That's good. That's good. Because she's in a victorious, no losing place. And so good is already present. What the serpent is doing now is driving her to the place of not knowing evil, but experiencing it. Not knowing it, but experiencing it, because the serpent, and I shouldn't genderize, the serpent is operating in the evil place. Because anything that gets you off of your success, victory, of your success, your victory, your power, your dominion, your authority, the place where God has given you, the place to excel, and something comes along, knowing that you have it, and attempts to rob you of it, to rob you of your life, that's evil. That's evil. If it doesn't enhance your journey, if it doesn't push you to the brink of your potential, if it doesn't add value to your life, if it takes life from you, if it robs you from what you possess, if it gives you an amendment that's opposite of the amendment, that's opposite of the instructions of God, that's evil. What the serpent is saying to Eve in his crafty way is, I'm evil, and you're going to experience it if you listen to me. Eve is intelligent enough to make the decision to say no. She doesn't have to make a lot of decisions. She has to make one decision. I want to pause and encourage you on something. I think a lot of times we don't make a lot of good decisions because we're trying to make so many decisions at one time. Can I suggest to you? Make a good decision one at a time. Don't create this level of stress, this level of mental and physical fatigue, where you're allowing so much to come at you. Listen to my voice. You're allowing so much to come at you that you are in hurry mode, trying to figure out, trying to decipher it, trying to push it away, trying to hold on to it. One good decision at a time. Just one. And before you know it, you've made a lifetime of good decisions. Take it for somebody. I'm sure I'm not the only person, but take it for somebody who's tried to rush and make so many decisions at a moment's notice. And you make so many mistakes when you can make a good choice, one decision at a time. I wanted you to have that. I wanted you to have that because Eve doesn't have to make a lot of decisions right now. She does not have to make a lot of decisions right now. She just doesn't. She does have to make one. She has to make one. And that's the clarion call. For us, ministry, your personal life, learn from Eve. Know the competing voices that are out there contradicting what you have courage and confidence in. Know those competing voices. The text says, I'm running. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant, look at this, to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise. There it is. Here's why she didn't say no. Here's why she didn't say no. Running after greater wisdom and intelligence, not knowing that the goodness of what she's experiencing now, she's maximizing it. And the only thing that she's getting ready to invite is chaos and evil in a place where good has settled in, where good is perpetual. People of God, don't let people get you out of the good place of your life. Type it on the screen. Don't let people and things get you out of the good place of the things happening in your life. If you've got good happening, maximize the moment, build on it, build on the momentum so more good can happen, and close your ears to those competing voices, conflicting and contradicting voices that's trying to distract you from good. So much so, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. An opportunity to say no, but they didn't do it. Why didn't it happen? Because they was chasing after something that they didn't realize they already possessed. You already have the wisdom. You already have the intelligence. Build on that. That's your journey. That's your path. Don't allow anybody else to rob you of what God has already given you. They had the opportunity to answer the serpent and say no. Can I suggest to you? Know when to say no. Know when. That's for all of us. When our eyes get us in trouble. When our ears are open to the wrong things. When our flesh is chasing after it. I'm talking from experience, not from what I heard somebody else tell me. We have an opportunity to make one good decision at a time and simply say no. I love you. God bless you. I hope you've enjoyed this time with us. Grace and peace be multiplied unto you. And until next time, thank you for joining us on this another Walking Through the Word. God bless you and God keep you and God sustain you to the days and even the years to come. Blessings.